Second part of our conversation, 15 November 2023. It's 14 hours, 31 minutes. We will observe that the evasive behavior sets such gaps, and those gaps will be on your personal accounts as small unit or individual. Also, we observe that the market as behavior as a local market until the entire global economy, considering the conjunctural behavior as macroeconomic fail. The type of fail and the evasive behavior as logical gap will be unveiled and corporations and also government and states. The state implies the judge, the government, the Congress, and the government. And we observe that the state as judge, and in general the military forces, they are long life chairs, go from the very first day until the last day of your life. If you make an entry by corruption and nepotism, you had a life serving the organized crime. The premise you violate as conformancy, and this is the object of the audit, is intentionally made since the very first day. We will observe that the Banax space was an idea quite simple. We used this at the past. During the show business phase 3, we could check the piracy. The phase 1, we had the white collar crime. The phase 2, we could check the bondage, dominance, and submission. And you check that the criminal area is invasive, get in touch with the regular area, and in general, they are kind of intensive, stalking, harassing, and getting people here. We set the law enforcement inside, and they kind of got in touch with the variables. The variables have the walking through into the internal space, and sometimes we have that kind of thing, give and take, sick games. To the organized crime, get more space inside your activity, it implies that it doesn't necessarily imply that you did more advanced things at the organized crime as deeper level, or we would have the decision, wouldn't have any problem. But indeed we move this thing here, kind of the center of things, and advance things, and you take part of your society, health society, now diverted as criminal groups or criminal association. The failure go by the interface that didn't troubleshoot the problem and one got in touch with. Now we have offered a model to the OECD, considering this situation here, and the antitrust justice and the International Criminal Court. Misuse of power and institutional power to advance the trust scam and corruption until engulf our society. A and B, 100% of result, the proportion of my result regular and result not regular. On USA, same thing. On Europe, results not regular, B, then we will have the proportion of all things considering Europe and USA, or the East and the West. It's the same model as proportion. The B as a legal result, the total of result on Europe or East, on USA or West, it will be, by the taste of the customer. It's a white label project. On the protection required USA, you will do your signature, for instance, and you will have this. Of course, that the compensation and all things are legally made in the same way. It's a pro bono activity. Compensation can be thank you very much. So, kill everybody that is annoying by misuse of power and reasonable acts. We observe that the institutional decision must be the most proper institutional decision. For instance, if you have a menace pandemic, the most proper decision is that the pandemic threat can be treated pandemically. The proper decision must be properly made. If it implies in general on time. the 7 circles of protection to act the step 4 as violate attacher counterfeit institutional decision. We will understand that the pattern of institutional decision indeed will be, for instance, divided on the antitrust justice USA or the antitrust justice Europe, or the International Criminal Court and the antitrust justice as general outfit. Regular behavior of the institutional power, kind of having the facts, doing the decision, having the facts, doing the decision legal, having the facts since for the entry, and you have kind of the records and the decision intentionally made as wrong. And this model will have combinations here and permutation of interest until in a very specific moment being viewed as the fake record, the fake entry, have institutional decision not properly made, and applying to obtain criminal advantage as compensation industry, which was named in Brazil this way. For instance, if you use the criminal regulation against the big tech that in general has no rights, and then you have the misuse of instrument and architecture with parallel levels of communication, clandestine service, violating the Google DNS, the Microsoft operational Windows, or also the Android, setting dialogues to boost the hate crime against someone or against a company, as a company that is making something offensive. And then you have the decision by a judicial power that is a long life chair in an area that got compliance since always. And you have the decision about the hate crime, but was boosted by illicit acts and institutional internal failure. We will have the conviction to the Google do the payment. For us, the General Motors got forced to do the incorporation of previous employees dismissed. It's a decision that belongs to the company. But you have a judicial order saying that you must put them back, even if they are corrosive arguments, which is a pattern that Brazil must consider make a pattern, because as a criminal model is a model that you can be corrosive anywhere. In Brazil, take advantage, transfer the money to the USA as criminal groups. Then we will have the plea bargain in Brazil inside the US Embassy, offering the privilege to the local criminal groups about the corrupted authorities in Brazil, having at the same time considered the security plan 1920 up to 2028, with prevention of Europe in the intercourse, I would say, intermission, which is next year. And Europe and then USA will offer to the local crimes the plea bargain to obtain advantage about corrupted and corrosive arguments, not Americans. In Brazil, they give the Brazilian authorities that are back off them. In USA, you will have the turbulence as prevention to keep the domestic tranquility, considering that I know my local criminals, I try to chase down them, but have new entries trying to be corrosive. And you probably set the groups of control that I have in monitoring process of follow-up in USA. In the same way, I can apply this, for instance, to the International Criminal USA, El Chapo, for instance. Give me the names of authorities linked with your cartel. And then I will operate one more time using the National Defense USA that talked with them at least since 2014. Right? And I think that they are listening. We observe the magic pen for good look that the behavior here we have the International Criminal Court and the Antitrust Justice as a Banax space and the observation of the entire organized crime. The not proper variable here indeed is linked with the organized crime, and they are kind of unveiled as chair by this quadrant tracer, right? The codification is quite simple. We had the number, that magic number, which is the positive one as the space, the positive one as institutional decision, counterfeit, We observe WDA, step 2, phase 4, the corruption of NIT that in general is not having the most proper application of the consequence of decision or not properly made. Most proper, it implies that, for instance, you treat pandemic criminals as a minor threat, and indeed they are not a minor threat. Or you do not do the application of the law on time, and the special victims will be dead, the special victims units will be blamed. If they got signed in a procedure in good faith to push the criminal association, the signatures are null, because it's a illicit procedure made to scapegoat them. We have this model here also, which was the protagonists of the acts are gonna be codified by self-determination during the acts made, especially in institutional decision. When you have the machine as something offered, it implies that you for sure has corruption on it, because you feel uncomfortable to apply and have your institutional role and expectation on you against the crime. You feel uncomfortable, annoyed. So we will have this model here. It's currently 40 trillion and 12 billions. As research we can do, we will have the financial penalties also, and the decision about the value. This is a decision that belongs to the justice. For instance, if the financial penalty got higher than the request, the center of interest indeed is the justice, is set by the justice. So the justice has interest in the case to obtain advantage. If the decision of the financial penalty is an accessory thing, that is a gravitational things as gravitation according around the right, got satisfied very fast, and the right didn't, or you do not have to the right as itself have something that do not accomplish, indeed you have right to do not, and you got exposed as not proper decision or decision not properly made, right? We request this way because we could check that the corrosive arguments go inside the architecture that allowed the entry of corrosive notation and had tolerance with the corrosive association from inside, having the interaction with the outside, which implies the association and interconnective in a pandemic level, putting you all together. And we have this model before also observed, and indeed we are kind of just doing the counterintelligence and the financial reply all the time. My architecture, I have my other architecture of institution, I have a failure inside, I had a failure inside, and can be the continent up to all continents we have. The failure got interaction, and then trying to engulf my thing and form a unique thing as pandemic mobilization of crime. It is this model here by the color of the matrix. It is this model here that's not gonna happen by this small detail, which is, I will observe one more time that my function got a problem, which was the corruption inside. The corruption inside was unveiled. The domain image, the domain function, has an image inside as criminal activity until the criminal activity got the overtake the situation, presenting the image as something totally illegal, but with the conformance by the creation of new law and things that in general we ignore. This idea here was unveiled as my thing do as function doing all things in a reversal way, and they are individualized by current misusers of power. I will request a regular procedure as dismiss procedure based on crimes, and I will have my function back without them. The dismiss procedure indeed is a procedure of accusation and criminal conviction on the International Criminal Court and the Antitrust Justice by names listed by as misuser of power in Blazing Act, heavily proved, and a lot of things. But we are expecting the most proper decision, pandemic criminals, pandemic treatment. And properly made in Blazing Act can be made right now. The delay is a benefit to them because they keep using the power. We'll finish here. Have a nice weekend. Have a nice holiday in Brazil. And as I told to you, the international community, take a look at the Brazilian law. You do, things they will ask you because it's a violent architecture, then respect not, but you comply with your embassy until you, for instance, by equity, do not pay your tax. I require to do not pay my tax in a criminal system, proceeding the entire thing complaint. I request to cut all ties. And if you complain, you probably will have something with your embassy by equity in other areas, doing the same thing, same treatment. Have a great weekend.